Welcome to episode 26 of Believe in TCU as part of the Believe Network. I'm Zion Trammell, joined by Seth Daddle. We've got an episode centered around TCU basketball and the hiring of the new athletic director, Mike Buddie, coming into Fort Worth. We've got a lot to talk about regarding that, but Seth, quick check-in. How are we doing today? 2025, our first episode in the
Yeah,
new year.
first episode of a new year. Everything going great for TCU athletics so far. Insofar as the men's basketball team has only lost once.
The good, and they lost to a really good team
Yeah.
at that. We'll talk about that later on, but we'll start things off. We'll get right into it. We'll talk about the new hire of Mike Buddie. Uh, Last month, in the beginning of December, it was announced that former TCU athletic director Jeremiah Donati was leaving for the job at South Carolina. So there was an opening, and they hired Mike Buddie. I believe it was about a week ago.
It was on New Year's Day.
New Year's Day.
How
Yeah,
about
that's
that?
a
Not even getting the day off.
cool way to ring in the new year, I guess. A little background on him: he spent the last 6 years as the AD for the Army Black Knights. He also was the AD at Furman from 2015 to 2019, and he also played for the New York Yankees. He was drafted by them in the fourth round in the 90s. So a little bit of a baseball background, which could bode well for TCU baseball. I hadn't heard of the guy. I'm not well versed in the athletic director verse, but um, sounds like I was hearing some of his comments from the opening press conference, which we'll get into soon. But pretty excited about it. Seth, what were kind of your reactions, if you had any, just thoughts about this hire?
Very happy that they went ahead and got it done, and there was not a limbo. I mean, we had about a month there for the interim, but very happy that they were able to get this done before the next football season started. Was the goal, obviously, and obviously they did that way before the next football season even started. Yeah, I mean, not a lot of things to say. I think we should analyze his Major League Baseball statistics real fast, though. 5-4 win-loss record of 4.67 ERA and 76 Ks for the Yankees and Brewers from 98 to 2002. So, solid.
Okay, take it. You'll take it.
Take it. And here's the thing, too. This bodes well, I think, for the baseball program. You're getting in a former big league player who was kind of close with Kirk Saarloos as well. And then you're going to an age where, uncertainties for sports like baseballs at certain universities, uncertainties for a specific stadium on campus at TCU that might need a little bit of a revamp. Talking about you, Lepton, you suck right now. Sorry, I didn't mean, if any Lepton lovers, I didn't mean to offend them, but the concourse way too tiny. We need more space. But yeah, on the horizon for that, and maybe if that's something that's prioritized, that would be good. Hopefully, I don't really have a lot of things to say about this other than Army people were not happy to see him go, but were happy for him. I saw that he was able to get this job. He's done a pretty good job there. They've had some success. Obviously, they had a very successful football season this last year, one of the best in my lifetime for the for West Point. So yeah, happy to see him here. Happy to see what he's got going for the athletic department. Really, he comes in a good time. There's not a lot of big decisions to be made in terms of coaching hires, which is one of the biggest jobs for an AD, at least at the moment. Right? There's not. I don't think there's any uncertainty with the big four. Maybe a little bit with football, depending on how next year goes, but we'll see about that. Yeah, I like it. What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? Yeah, I totally agree. Seth and I are big baseball guys, so TCU baseball is pretty important to us, and him having that MLB background is certainly going to help. And to your point about Lupton, that concourse, yes, is way too tiny, and they need to we need to get more seats. I love the vibe at Lupton. I love just, I haven't gone to a game because I've been working a lot of them, for production and whatever, but just going to games at Lupton, I just love the vibe there. It's pretty laid back, but yeah, I think we do need a bit of an update, and especially because TCU baseball is one of our better programs on campus. They need a stadium to back that up. So hopefully we can get that done. And he did mention, kind of that being a point of emphasis as something they want to work on. I'll just read quickly one thing he was saying. He expressed his gratitude for being given the opportunity at TCU and had this to say about coming to Fort Worth. He said, I read about the collective values of TCU, and they are in complete alignment with my personal values. I love the innovation. There's no manual to follow on how to stay competitive in college athletics. TCU will not follow a manual. The future is an unwritten script. There's no better time and no better place to be in a place. Okay. Like Texas Christian University. He said place a couple times. I feel honored and thrilled to be a part of this. The only reason I'm here is because of the 1,000 athletes, coaches, and staff who have elevated my profile by their success. I will have never said that anyone works for me. We all work together. I think that really kind of resonated with me a little bit, and, gets me pretty excited about what we can expect from him here in Fort Worth. And, I think it's important that he ushers in this new era of collegiate athletics and does that in a successful way. And, there's a lot changing in college sports, and I'm hoping that he can embrace that and continue to uplift not just men's sports, but women's sports, because our women's sports are honestly way better than than our men's teams right now. So that is certainly important as well.
Yeah, and I said no big decision on the coaching front. There are big decisions, obviously, like renovations and whatnot, but also where does TCU fit in? And he talked about this a little bit in his opening presser in the greater collegiate sports world, right? Where do we want to go? Obviously, we are continuing to veer towards the track of a super league of sorts, right? That's kind of where it looks like everything is happening, at least in football. And I've kind of been on the train with, at least on the Big 12 side of things, where your mark presides, that the Big 12 is trying to position itself as one of the premier basketball conferences and hoping that perhaps if we're that good at that sport, then they have no choice but to include us in everything else. There's certain logic to that. I think obviously this year's men's basketball season is not banned out in terms on a conference wide level in terms like the success that you would want, at least right now, a lot of seasons ago. But where does TCU fit in that? Obviously, this is not, when it pertains to men's basketball, not a premier place at the moment. But in all other sports like football and baseball and perhaps even women's basketball now, there are certain avenues to, elevate yourself to the top. And I think it's one of his jobs to continue to usher in that success and position TCU in a spot to where when potential changes come, that the university, at least athletically, is still in a good spot.
All very good points, and very excited for Mike Buddie as the new athletic director here at TCU. We'll talk, we'll move away from that now. We'll talk a little bit about women's basketball. We are recording this, they just played Kansas. They won 80-73. Hard fought win for the Horned Frogs. Sedona Prince with 30 points and 14 rebounds. She is just absolutely terrific. And then with Haley Van Lith, she had 19 points, 6 assists, knocked down a couple threes. Taylor Bigby was also solid in this game at 12 points and 3 rebounds. In between our last episode and this one, they also beat Cincinnati 81-66, where Madison Connor had 29 points. But okay, I just have to ask you this. Did you know that Aaliyah Roberson is related to Andre Roberson, who played for the Thunder for several years?
I did not know, but that makes total sense because they look kind of the same.
They mentioned it in the broadcast. Like they're saying how she had several siblings. Like one played at Colorado, one played somewhere else, and they're like, yeah, her older brother, Andre Roberson played for the Thunder. I was
That
like,
totally
oh,
makes
what?
sense.
Yeah,
I do not know why I didn't see that though. That totally makes so much sense though.
yeah. I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. Um,
That's
but
neat.
that's a
That's very,
cool little fun fact.
did Andre Roberson and Kenrich Williams perhaps overlap in their time in Oklahoma City?
They might have.
They probably did. I feel like they had to have. Let's see.
Yeah, I probably during the 2020 season, maybe. I don't know when the last time Andre Roberson was in the NBA, but I imagine they did. So that's kind of cool.
We're gonna find out right now.
All right.
This is another tangent. Yeah, 2019-20 in Oklahoma City. He last played in 21 with Brooklyn. I believe Kenrich Williams was on the. Well, he might not have been. Actually, he might have been in New Orleans at that point.
Yeah, but still, that's a cool little fun fact.
I was trying to make a TCU connection. I was really trying to stretch it even further, but I couldn't.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Cool little thing there. I didn't know that, but yeah, what a game for TCU today, and in a hard fought win against Kansas. The Jayhawks really stuck around for most of this game, and they just continued to execute offensively, but TCU just did it better. Late in the fourth quarter, the Frogs were getting inside, and there was one possession where Kansas had played really good defense for almost the entire shot clock, and then with 1 second left, I believe it was Taylor Bigby who knocked down a huge three with under 2 minutes to go, and that's just kind of been TCU's thing all season long, is they've executed really, really well offensively, and the defense does just enough to get by.
Yeah. As you mentioned when you were going over those stats, really awesome game from Sedona Prince, really awesome game from Haley Van Lith. It really was a game from Sedona where if there was nothing else there, just give it to her and she's going to figure it out because she's better than everyone else, especially in the paint. And that hasn't always been the case. I mean, obviously she's been dealing with some injuries this year, but just to see her go out there and play 39 minutes, see her and Van Lith play 39 minutes, and just lead this offense to victory, lead the team to victory. Great to see. Do want to mention though, you remember how we talked about like lead up to the year and in non-conference, we're like, look at this depth. Look how many players are playing off the bench. Last two conference games, only 2 players have come off the bench, and then the first one against Colorado, 3 players off the bench. And yes, the depth is better, but it's funny how we've reverted back to our ways of last year where we're just going to play like 7 people.
Yeah, in this game is Donovan Hunter and Aaliyah Roberson, the only 2 players that came off the bench.
And like that's not like a TCU exclusive thing. Kansas only had 3 players come off the bench, and one of those was for 2 minutes. I just think it's very funny and also very cool that you have 2 stars and 2 starters that are playing 39 minutes a game.
That is cool. Yeah.
And are able to perform at a high level the entire time. Obviously, that is what is expected. But as someone who cannot do that, I think it's very like that's such an extraordinary feat to go out, like to see anyone running up and down a wooden floor for 40 minutes while also jumping and doing other things. I know that's a really archaic way of explaining basketball, but
I mean,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's really neat to see, and also like it's neat to see that they're confident that they can do this, presumably for 17 more games in a regular season.
It's underappreciated for sure. I mean, because not only for Haley Van Lith and Sedona Prince, I mean, they're running the offense, they're touching the ball almost every single possession. Sedona's taking hits down low. Haley is driving in the lane, taking contact, and then they got to get back on defense and stay in front of, whether they're playing man or zone, whatever. But they have to play really good defense on that end of it. There's no breaks. Like there isn't just an opportunity where you can kind of just lay back, especially when you're, the 2 best players. So that's a really good point. It's definitely underappreciated for sure. And then, I mean, because I am a little surprised though that like Una Jovanovic or Deja Turner haven't gotten any run. I mean, I guess they were the kind of the beneficiary of. I guess I wouldn't say the beneficiary of the injuries, but they got a lot of playing time last season, and they really haven't been used a ton. And then obviously the injury to Maddie Scher is was unfortunate, but yeah, I mean they're very top heavy. We'll just say that very very top
Still
heavy.
are. Obviously, the depth is a lot better. And I will say, admittedly, last two games, I know the final score against Cincinnati was not that close, but that game was a little closer than that final score would suggest. Cincinnati was in that game into the third quarter. So, um, obviously, when you're playing a competitive game, you want your guys out. You want the best players out there. So, um, yeah, and those players are Sedona Prince, Madison Connor, and Haley Benleth. And then you can rotate Imanopu and Bigby with a Roberson and Hunter. And I think it's a fine rotation right now that everyone's healthy. It works really well. If health starts to become a problem, that's where we'll really see if this depth is better than last year.
Yeah, and to your point about Eminopu and Bigby, I mean, they are kind of the unsung heroes on this TCU team because obviously it's hard to not talk about Haley Van Lith and Sedona Prince when you look at the box score, but those two players make so many different contributions and are kind of the glue pieces on this team. I mean, I don't think TCU is as good as they would be now, honestly, if it weren't for players like that. And like I mentioned, Big B had 12 points, 3 rebounds. She had a steal. Agnes Manopu, she fouled out of this game, but she's had big rebound games and has kind of been complimentary to Sedona Prince. So those are two players I also wanted to give a shout out to as players that have really stepped up for Mark Campbell and have played really well. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, for sure.
yeah, and then just the connection of Prince and Van Lith is truly special to watch. They remain undefeated in conference play. Um, I think finishing top of the Big 12 is certainly the expectation, assuming health, or at least one or two, assuming they stay healthy.
Yep, that is the expectation. And hoping to, if they keep winning, hoping to climb in the rankings pretty soon. They're pretty stagnant at 11. In fact, like the top 15 has been pretty stagnant in the AP top 25 for women's basketball for like the last 5 weeks. So I am really hoping, and just, obviously the conference play started, things will start to shake up, but we've really not seen a lot of movement because everyone just keeps winning. That's at the
Mm-hmm.
top. Uh, and that's unfortunate. We need to lose everyone. We need Oklahoma. They need to lose. Ohio State lose. Maryland lose. We need put TCU at number one. That's the goal in my life is to see a TCU sports team ranked number one in a poll of a Big Four sport. That is my goal. I thought we might get it with baseball last year when we started like 14-0, but they refused to move us up from 5, and then we proceeded to like lose a bunch of games. So maybe they were right. Maybe they were right, but it would have been really fun. And now I feel like presumably this year would be the best option. You really needed to beat South Carolina though if you wanted that. But anyway, that's my
Yeah,
mini tangent about my life's goal to see a TCU team ranked number one.
I think baseball has the best chance,
Probably.
but
Start 18. The first preseason poll from Perfect Game came out.
18,
Ranked
nice.
18th, yes.
Cool. Yeah. Looking forward to talking about baseball for sure. Yeah, the TCU women's basketball they remain top of the Big 12 at 4-0. Kansas State and Utah are each 3-0. The Horned Frogs coming up here in about 9 days. They'll take on Utah so at home. So that could be a potentially big game for TCU. But in the meantime, this Saturday they'll travel to Lubbock to take on Texas Tech, and that'll round out their week. But amazing start for the Horned Frogs in Big 12 play. They just continue to roll. This team is so much fun to watch. But we'll move on to the other team, men's basketball. Who? Okay, we'll give them. We got it. We got to talk about the positives. What a win that they had against Kansas State. kind of some last second heroics there for TCU. They won, what was the score? 63-62. Just a great game for the Horned Frogs. The Wildcats, they are kind of struggling this year, not going the way that they wanted to for that program, but it was a good win for TCU. And then they followed that up with just an insanely difficult task of playing on the road in Houston, where the Cougars going into that game had won 29 straight home games and they made it 30. They won 65-46. So I can't really be too upset about that loss.
Had flashbacks. Was it last year's Big 12 tournament game against Houston where TCU refused to score for like 10 minutes?
Dude, that was bad. They had Jamal Shed, and that they had us they were clamping us. Oh my god.
It wasn't like that, but it was, let's see, it was like 15 to 4 at like the 15-minute, like through 5 minutes, and I was like,
yeah,
yikes.
Can we score?
I will give them props though. They cut it to 29-22 at half.
Yeah.
And just couldn't. I mean, obviously, they couldn't keep pace the rest of the way.
It was a 3-point game, like at the very start of the second half, and then Houston kind of carried away.
So props to that. Props to them for getting that. Still, the problems persist. Shot 16% from three. Let me look at the free throw percent. 42% from the line. Only had 7 of them, but only made 3 of them. So
yeah,
really not good. But yeah, in the positives, you look at the K-State game. Last second wins are fun. Beating a team that I did not think they would beat coming into the season, also fun. Obviously, Kansas State is not in a good spot right now, and that's something to look at for them later down the line. But good to get that win, especially because it was at home. Great uniform matchup. The gray on like the light purple that K-State had going on, pretty fun. I'm just looking for positives here, man. I don't got a lot. You got 19 points out of Noah Reynolds against Houston.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to talk about as a positive. Is Noah Reynolds has started to heat things up offensively. I think the Frogs were kind of looking for their footing after losing Frankie Collins, who was for the season, who's probably your best player, just kind of running things on the offensive side, could score as well at all levels. And so they kind of needed somebody else to step up, and Noah Reynolds has seemed to be that guy who's kind of been the catalyst. He had 18 points against Kansas State. He had 19 against Houston. Didn't shoot great from three, but that's all right. Not many players are shooting well.
I don't expect you to, and no one does.
Yeah. Seems to be trending up is Noah Reynolds, and someone to be really excited about. Another guy who was certified by John Rothstein was David Punch. He tweeted out, he said, David Punch, buy stock now. He's John, is that how you say his name? John Rothstein or Stein?
Yeah.
He's one of the bigger college basketball insiders, and he tweeted that out. I was like, whoa, what?
Dude only watches college basketball. We are in the middle of Texas, Arizona State on New Year's Day. It is crazy. Everyone in the country is watching Texas, Arizona State, and he tweets something like, I'm a college basketball addict or something like that.
Like, dude, you can watch football, man. It's okay.
Or like tweeting about like mid college football playoff game. He's like, Pepperdine looking good against someone. I don't know.
Like, dude.
I mean, that's his job, so obviously he's going to, but I just think it's funny that we're in the middle. We're probably in the middle of the Super Bowl, and he's going to be watching what's that terrible Mississippi Valley State play some
Idaho
random
State.
Team. Yeah, Idaho State or whatever. The Bengals, Idaho State. I don't know why I know that. But yeah, the men's team getting a little Utah Utah game. Utah. They're playing Utah on 15th. I don't know. I just totally had an aneurysm there. They're playing Utah on the 15th. They're playing BYU on the 11th.
Yeah, they're not even going to Utah. They're playing both those teams at home. So
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I have a hypothetical question to ask you about the men's team. I have
okay,
no scientific way to prove this. Big 12 down this year. I think we could all agree a little bit down.
definitely, yeah.
How does the team 2 years ago? How do they do in this year's Big 12?
Oh man, with Mike Miles, that and Damian Baugh,
And
Emmanuel
E-Man,
Miller,
Jacoby
the
Coles.
Eddie Lampkin team, that team, right?
No,
Or
this
was
is the
that?
team that played Gonzaga, the Arizona,
Oh,
that team.
that team. Okay. Um.
The team
Oh
is better
man.
than the Eddie Lampkin team. I don't think
Yeah,
anyone.
yeah. I think they're probably like 4 or 5. I think they would definitely be up there. I don't know. They wouldn't beat Houston or Iowa State, Arizona. They're
They
starting
might
to
beat
play.
this. Yeah,
They're
I mean,
starting
they
to play
might.
better, but yeah, I think they could beat them.
Yeah, a lot will be. The story of this men's basketball team really is going to be told, I think, in these next 3 games. If they can compete against BYU, Utah, and Baylor, I have a much better outlook. But if they put up some stinkers, then it's already been a discouraging season. But if it continues to go that route, then I think a lot of people who have already tuned out will continue to just tune out.
Yeah, if you can beat Baylor, especially in Waco, yeah, that could turn some heads for sure. Those are some important games. You'll have at Texas Tech at the end of January. Look, I don't think anybody is expecting this team to be a top team in the Big 12, but there's still plenty of time to salvage something out of this season to, maybe trend in the right direction. Jamie Dixon's a great coach. I'm sure he can, you know, get the most out of these guys. But, hey, I'm happy with the Kansas State win. It was a good game.
It was a surprise for sure, but I'm
It
very
was.
happy it happened.
Yeah.
NIT, is that the goal? I guess just make the NIT at this point.
NIT champs, I'm not mad at it.
I'm not mad. Some of TCU's best seasons for NIT champs.
Yeah. The TCU men's basketball history has not been too
TCU
pleasant.
basketball, born and bred in the NIT.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been a struggle for sure. But yeah, I think they could, that's a really good point. Then they'll have after that BYU, Utah, Baylor stretch, then they got Kansas, so um
It's at home.
that, that that'll be a game.
That will be a basketball game that happens in the year 2025.
Yes, it does. But yes, currently in the Big 12, TCU currently 12th. Yes, 12th in the conference. So definitely in the lower half of things. And, I think you just kind of look for small wins as the season goes on because obviously I don't think this team has enough talent to compete, like I said earlier. But
Here's a small win. We're 12th. Good thing there's 16 teams in this Big 12 conference. Not
that's
last.
right. That's right. Cincinnati is below TCU, a team that was just in the top 25 a few weeks ago
How
or a
about
couple
that?
weeks ago. They're
Rank
below
us.
us. Yeah. Colorado is 0-2. Oklahoma State and Utah are all 0-2. So, you know, Horn
Rank
Frogs
us,
on the
Tyler.
rise. Yeah, rank us. Rank all 11 Big 12 teams ahead of us and then put us at 25. Half the top 25 is Big 12 teams. Um, but yeah, kind of a down year for the Big 12 for sure.
It's strange. I you know, big agenda person here, watching all these football games. I'm a SEC denier, SEC hater. I'm not going to shy away from this. Anything that will support that agenda, I will fully, put in my basket. But anything that doesn't, I will throw away immediately and disregard it and say it does not matter. Such as the
Mhm.
SEC being the best basketball conference this year. Disregard doesn't count.
Yeah, they have Tennessee at 1, Auburn 2, Bama 5, Kentucky 6, Florida 8, and A&M 10. So they got 6 teams in the top 10.
And then you
Uh,
got, and then in Mississippi State. What are we doing? What Mississippi State can't be good, right? Oklahoma's at 17, Ole Miss at 23, and then that's it. But
it's not good for the agenda.
Arkansas is unranked, but they're close. Yeah, not good for the agenda, but it's fine. Everything is okay because the football was not great for them.
And it's January. A lot can change.
A lot can
So
change. This is true. Really need the rest of the baseball conferences to clutch up here in
yeah.
2025
Mm.
to get a non-SEC national champion. Very unlikely, though. Probably doesn't happen, but we'll see. We'll see.
We shall see. But that'll finish things up here for episode 26 of Believe in TCU. Thank you all for tuning in. You can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube page, or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Seth Dowdle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, go Frogs.